Hi, Tosha. Just a quick question here. I often think that part of offering my life to the divine means that I'll be doing something quote unquote spiritual as my means of making money. And I have all kinds of pictures in my mind about what that's supposed to look like. What do you suggest I do with this? So I think this is really interesting to me because how can I put this? In the act of offering money, income, livelihood, in the act of offering it all to the divine, sometimes it can be very surprising what the divine sends. And I really think this because in the grand picture of everything, everything is spiritual in a very specific way to someone's life. Everything can end up being a preparation. If you're actually saying to the divine, take over my livelihood, take over my work, show me the work in this moment that you wish me to do. This is the way that I see it working, and I'll give you a couple examples of this. One is that there was a guy, a really nice guy, who periodically over the years I would give readings to. Excuse me, and back when I used to do them, and he was a really wonderful dance teacher, right? He's a really great dance teacher, and he was always, people were always pursuing him to get lessons. And he was constantly in touch with me over the years saying, but I really don't want to teach people just how to dance. I want to be a spiritual teacher. I want to teach them things that are more spiritual. Whenever he tried to make that happen, like he was trying to make his living from teaching meditation, or he was trying to make his living from, just teaching workshops that were more spiritual, nobody would come. But when he taught a dance class, everybody came. And he was really frustrated by this for a while until he and I kept having these conversations, and I said, well, listen, what if you offer your work entirely to the divine and you say, hey, if you want me to teach dance, if you want me to teach the other, then great. But if you want me to teach dance, then let the spiritual infuse my dance teaching. And this guy went through the most amazing transition because he let go of being secretly resentful that he wasn't teaching so-called spiritual stuff, which, by the way, there's plenty of spiritual teachers out there that are living none of what they're doing. So, we've all seen that. So to just go teach quote unquote spiritual things and not live them, I always am like, ugh, does the world really need more of that? Like, no. Go live whatever you're doing. And I really did the same thing with this forum and with everything. I was like, oh, the universe really wasn't letting me teach this until I was in my late 50s and actually living it to the best of my ability, because otherwise there was too big of a disconnect between what the teaching would be and what you're actually doing. So to go back to this guy, I'll call him Tom. Tom ended up offering his dance teaching to the divine fully. And this got absolutely transformed so that people were really having these very deep spiritual experiences from his teaching of dance. And he let go of his resentment about it. His classes were constantly packed. He realized that he was serving the divine in his own way doing this. He also realized from offering it that for now, this was his dharma. Maybe down the road, he would teach something quote unquote more spiritual, but he came to the understanding that there was nothing more spiritual. He was a dancer, and this is what he had to teach, and he was giving people very profound experiences of their own love by doing this. So I think this is the thing, is that this idea of what's spiritual and what's not is very limited. And same thing, the other story that comes to mind is that I think I posted this back in uh, the end of November, that I had, been noticing this barista at the cafe where I go every day. Here's this guy, he's a barista that, for, some people would be like, wow, that's a really menial job. What are you making per hour? And you're relying on tips and blah, blah. Meanwhile, here's this person at my local cafe who, to me, was like a Jedi master, out of Star Wars. It was like I would watch this guy day after day go in, serve people with so much love, not lose his cool when people were mean or abusive. He would just be in this steady state of centeredness. And, when I talked with him about it, he was like, for right now, this is my work. And I'm using it as an opportunity to become what did he call it? He said to become a master of response, so that he wasn't in a place of constant reactivity to everything happening. That in this job, that very few people would consider being a barista a spiritual job, he had made it a deeply spiritual job, because he was using the job to learn to become better and better and better at holding his inner centeredness no matter what got thrown at him. He was using the job for that, as opposed to, oh, well, I should be doing something that's more quote unquote elevated. So I really think of it this way. And I think it actually happened to me for years, the years of giving the readings. I've talked about this before. I There was a part of me that had to keep surrendering over and over to giving the readings, because the divine simply would not let me stop until it was time to stop. And in a sense, you could say all those thousands of readings, 30,000 readings, which is insane. It was the preparation for what I'm doing now. I don't think I would be who I am now, whatever this is, but I think a certain kind of surrender to giving all those readings is what let me become comfortable doing what I'm doing now. And the divine saw me. Maybe I'm a really slow learner, but I needed 30 years of those readings, even though after the first 10 years I was like, hey, let's do something else. I'm ready. And the divine was like, no, no, actually, you think you're ready, you're not. So this is what I'm not saying this so that you think you're going to have 30 years doing something, wishing you were doing something else, but the act of my surrendering to that work and seeing it as spiritual, even when a part of me wanted to be teaching, wanted to be writing, wanted to be doing other things, surrendering over and over to what I think my dharma was. Dharma is like such a great word, because it's like your sacred duty in a given life. This is again why I think things like The Secret are not very helpful once you're an old soul. It's not just about visualizing, yourself on Oprah. It's like your dharma, your destiny. Once you've really offered yourself to the divine, all your work becomes spiritual. And so many different kinds of jobs become the preparation ground that the divine uses to purify you, or to clear you, or to let you become stronger and in your power more. And then the jobs begin to shift as you become more available. So the last thing I would say on this is I think it's part of the unique craziness of being in a culture that has spirituality as a way of making a living, because I think it creates all kinds of people that say, well, I want to make my living from doing spiritual stuff. Whereas down deep, everything is spiritual if you're in the right consciousness. So anyway, I hope that all makes sense. It's really a good question, and I'll probably come back to it on some of these others. So